Hi, I'm Shelley, and this is Amanat, Women's Writing from Kazakhstan. Amanat came out this July from Gaudy Boy Translates, and it includes 24 stories and essays by 12 different writers, translated into English by 3 different translators. Some of the pieces in this book started off in the Kazakh language and some in the Russian language. They're written in a wide range of genres, everything from flash fiction to philosophical essays to memoirs. But what they have in common is that they were written by women in Kazakhstan, and all in the last 30 years since the end of the Soviet era. My colleague Zari Batayeva was the one who first thought of a book to showcase women's writing from Kazakhstan. Zari came to me in 2017 with the idea of translating a short story by Aygul Kamalbayeva called The Nanny. Amanat has an excerpt from that story called Hunger. So Zari and I worked on that story by Kamalbayeva together, and then she showed me 2 more stories. One was written by Zari herself. That's called The School. The other was an essay by Zira Naurazbayeva called The Best Computer. All 3 of those stories that we translated together were then published in the online magazine Words Without Borders in 2018. After that, Zari and I agreed we couldn't stop translating and collecting these works. So she went on finding more essays and stories by Kazakhstani women, and we went on translating them too. We added a new translator to the team, Sam Brazil, who brought his translation of a story by Oral Arukanova. And by the time we took our collection to Gaudy Boy, it was almost complete. So it wasn't long before Amanat became a book. The scout for the stories in Amanat was Zari Batayeva, my fellow translator and editor for this anthology. Zari reads extensively in both Russian and Kazakh. She's a real expert on Kazakhstani culture and literature and a cultural commentator. Over the years, she'd built up a long list of female authors who weren't getting the recognition she felt they deserved. Zari pulled all these stories and essays out of journals and other collections, and she spoke with the authors who were still living. She tracked down the relatives of the women who had already passed away. And we had a really wonderful response from all the women and their estates. Everyone was very enthusiastic about being included in Amanat. And of course, the feeling was mutual. We were delighted to have them all involved. What would I like readers to take away from Amanat? Well, the anthology was noticed right away by people who are already interested in Central Asia and Kazakhstan and the literature of those countries. That part wasn't a surprise to me because it's a very small community and there aren't that many books published in English every year from the region. But while we were celebrating the launch of the book, the really great thing is that people who had never really given a thought to Kazakhstani literature before have also been discovering Amanat and reading it and enjoying it and reviewing it. I think it's hitting a chord with people who are hungry for stories from places that are new to them and people who are eager to see what they can relate to in those stories. A lot of the themes are universal. There's everything from office gossip to family relationships to overcoming historical trauma and other serious questions. So I think most readers will find something to relate to. And what I hope is that everyone who reads Amanat will find 1 or 2 stories in there that really resonate with them and that fuel their curiosity to read more books from Central Asia, more literature and translation, more work by women in general from around the world. If you want to read more about Kazakhstan, I have 2 important book recommendations for you. The first thing you have to read is The Hungry Steppe, Famine, Violence, and the Making of Soviet Kazakhstan by Sarah Cameron. This is a very important non-fiction book based on research into early Soviet history, especially the Soviet policies that resulted in disastrous famines and starvation throughout Kazakhstan. This was published in 2018. And the second book I want to recommend to you is another translation of mine. And this is Batu and the Search for the Golden Cup. It's an adventure story for kids aged about 8 to 12, based on Kazakhstani myths and legends. This will be coming out in March 2023 from Amazon Crossing Kids. And the authors are Zira Naurazbayeva and Lilia Kalaus, both of whom also have stories and essays in Amanat.